The Houston Texans need a wide receiver in the upcoming NFL draft. And heck, I'd be fine if they took two of them at the position in this upcoming draft. But who should they take? Well, I've got my favorites and I want to share them with you. My 7 favorite wide receivers in this upcoming draft. And I kind of spaced them out a little bit over the course of where they could go. Got a first rounder for you, got a couple of second rounders, got a third rounder, and some day 3 dudes that the Texans could be targeting in this upcoming draft. And I feel like would fit really, really well with the Texans. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be okay with some other guys. These are my guys at the wide receiver position. The 7 of them would start with the first rounder, Emeka Egbuka from The Ohio State University. You've heard about this guy, right? At this point, a super productive player for the Buckeyes, the all-time receptions leader for the Buckeyes. Only 20 players have scored more touchdowns at Ohio State than what Egbuka brought to the table. And even with Jeremiah Smith, the dynamic standout super freshman that the Buckeyes had this year, Egbuka was still the receiving leader from receptions for the Buckeyes this past year. I really like what he brings to the table. He's got a safe label on him. I don't know that Egbuka is ever going to be a star. He probably is never going to be a number 1 wide receiver for the team that drafts him. But if the Houston Texans get him, he turns into a really solid, dependable number 2 wide receiver. You should be okay with that with the 25th overall pick. And certainly if the Texans moved back a little bit in the first round. Egbuka is a do-it-all type of guy. He's got enough speed to beat guys. He's got enough wiggle to beat guys. He does a lot of the wide receiver dirty work that other guys don't do. He blocks really well on the outside. 2 really impressive Ohio State running backs in this draft opened up a lot of holes for Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins did Emeka Egbuka. Now, the most likely outcome for me for Egbuka is right around on that fringe 2-3 wide receiver. It might be a little tough if he's a fringe 2, kind of a 3 wide receiver to draft him at 25 overall. But if he reaches his top end potential, which to me is a very good number 2 wide receiver, which makes him about, 30th best wide receiver in football, 35, top 35 wide receiver in football. You could live with that. At 25, I do feel like the ceiling is a little bit lower for a guy like Egbuka, but the floor is high, and that's part of the reason I really like the Buckeye standout. So Emeka Egbuka, that potential first rounder, that is one of my 7 favorite wide receivers. Let's move to day 2 and round 2. I believe both these players will be round 2, maybe the early part of round 3, but let's start with Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. I just love what Higgins brings to the table. He's kind of got a similar physical profile to that of Nico Collins. Pretty close in height, pretty close in weight, pretty close in arm length, pretty close in speed, pretty close in a lot of different things that Nico Collins does well. And waiter, I'll take 2 Nico Collins, please. Now, obviously, Higgins has got to do some growing into what Nico Collins turned into. Nico himself had to do some growing. But as a guy you could put on the field in a couple of different spots, you could play him in the slot, you could play him outside, you could put Higgins on the field right away, and he could go out there and be productive for you. And I just love a player that talks about wanting to succeed in the red zone. It's tougher to succeed in the red zone. It's easier for defenses in the red zone, but Higgins has mentioned multiple times when I've spoken to him about how much he wants to be a red zone weapon, and goodness knows the red zone was a bloody mess for the Texans last year. I like Higgins. I feel like the best outcome for him is an excellent wide receiver too. Just turns into a really solid player. We talked about Egbuka as a good wide receiver too, so maybe top 35. You think about Jaden Higgins, you think about maybe what T. Higgins is to Jamar Chase, a consistent player that's reliable. That's what you hope the top end level of Jaden Higgins is. T. Higgins not as reliable because of the injuries, but if Jaden Higgins stays healthy and is reliable, he's got good hands, you can trust him. I like the potential there for Higgins. Now, the low end for Higgins, yeah, he could end up being a type of guy that just, it never clicks. He never puts all the tools together. So there's a little bit more risk associated with him than some of the other players. And certainly you'd have to take him right there in the second round, 58th overall, to get Jaden Higgins, but I really like what the Cyclone brings to the table. Another guy, it's kind of a second round guy, kind of a third round guy. I would think early part of the third round is maybe where he ultimately goes, but Trey Harris from Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss offensive players, it's a little weird because I know Lane Kiffin can gimmick some things together and put some together, some incredible offense there in college. So I kind of think about Ole Miss players sometimes like we used to think about Texas Tech players, where the offense is easy, so it looks easy for them, and it's not always easy to translate to the NFL. When you look at Trey Harris, he's played a lot of football. 5 years in college, La Tech before he ends up at Ole Miss. He's going to be 25 here pretty soon, and that is a guy that's he's a grown man. Okay, he's got things that he's got to take care of. He's grown into his body. There's not a lot of weight on Trey Harris. And man, when you get this big, long athlete rolling, he shows a surprising amount of speed for a guy his size. Now, he wasn't super productive at Ole Miss because some of the injuries popped up, and that's one of the downsides to Trey Harris. But man, when he got it going, he looked like he was about as tough a cover as you could get when it comes to covering wide receivers in the SEC. I love what Harris brings to the table. Again, top end, probably a really good number 2. The bottom end would be that he just doesn't ever put it together, and he's probably a depth guy for you, and that's not exactly what you'd want at 58. But if you drafted him at 79 and you needed to kind of let him get used to the NFL, you could probably live with that. A little bit more risk to Harris than a guy like, say, Jaden Higgins or Emeka Egbuka. But Harris, still one of my favorites. Now, another favorite of mine, this is for sure a round 3 guy. I know there's a lot of draft buzz about this guy, and there should be a lot of draft buzz about this guy, but I just don't know. With his size and the competition that he went against, that you could draft him in round 2 and feel confident about that. Kyle Williams from Washington State. I just love the way Kyle Williams attacked things at Wazoo and at the Senior Bowl this past offseason. He was uber productive at Washington State. Go ask Travis Hunter about trying to cover Kyle Williams when the Buffaloes and Washington State squared off. Man, I just love Williams. He is speedy. He gets away from guys. You hear the old saying sometimes, if you're even, he's leaving. That's very much applying to Kyle Williams. Now, he's a bit of a draft darling. The offseason process has been good to him. He worked out really well at the Senior Bowl and the practices. Obviously, at the Combine, he had some success as well. I just look at Washington State, and it wasn't always the best competition. And we know the Texans like guys that have success against big-time competition. The Oregon States and New Mexico's, the Portland States and New Mexico's of the world, not exactly the most competition, but Kyle Williams took care of his business at the Senior Bowl. He's a guy that has skills, the ability to get off the ball really quick, get deep on guys. He's a guy that has skills that could be successful for you. He's not uncompetitive at the point of attack when guys are with him. He does have a little bit of a hand problem, but speedy guys usually have a little bit of a hand problem. So those are guys that could go in the first 2 days. But I wanted to give you some of my favorites that should be day 3 guys. Maybe round 5, round 6 guys, maybe even sneaking into the back part of round 4, which might be a problem for the Texans. They don't currently have a 4th round pick. But Pat Bryant from Illinois. Bryant doesn't do anything great. Okay, I'll start with you right there. But he does a lot of stuff really well. He is a guy that you can put on the outside. You can let him go to work. And he even showed a little bit of an ability to play inside at the Senior Bowl. So I like Pat Bryant. Played some good football at Illinois for the Illini. And again, reliable, can run most of the route tree, can go out there and get open against zone, can go out there and have some success against man. Man, he had a catch in the Senior Bowl where he had the guy all over the left side of him. The DB was just hugging him like he was hugging his teddy bear when you're a kid and you go to sleep. And Pat Bryant just stuck his right arm out. The quarterback put it right on the nose, and Pat Bryant just caught it with one arm while this DB is just all over him on the other side. It was really impressive. I just like the idea of a guy that does a lot of stuff well. There's a guy that you can go out there. Maybe he's not a 3rd wide receiver for you, but he's a reliable, trusty 4th wide receiver for 3-4 seasons for you. If you get that guy in the 5th round and he helps you out a little bit on special teams here and there, that's a good draft pick. I mean, if you're thinking about a 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, you got to have a clear role on day one. Well, a depth guy that can play outside when, I don't know, Christian Kirk has some injury history, Nico Collins has some injury history. You might have to press Pat Bryant into work if you have him on the team. If you're the Houston Texans, I like it. I like Pat Bryant. Again, I identify well with guys who do a lot of things well. And Pat Bryant does that well. Nothing great, nothing amazing, not the best athlete, but goes out there. He's an outside wide receiver that you can trust. Now, stay with me here when I say this, and I'll say it to you. And I haven't said it anywhere else. Don't tell everybody. Don't go running and telling everybody I said this. I found a guy that can do Puka Nacua things. Now, he's not going to be Puka Nacua. Those guys don't come around all the time. Puka Nacua, incredible, one of the best rookie wide receivers of all time. Really good this past season for the Rams. He's not going to be Puka Nacua. But a poor man's Puka Nacua, I could see it. Big slot energy, Isaac Tesla. Man, the Arkansas Razorback, he was flying at the combine. He ran really fast, and at the Senior Bowl, I think he turned some heads. This is a guy that played at a lower level of college, went to Arkansas, had a tough time getting consistency in the Arkansas offense. But when you look at a toolsy player like Tesla and the success that he had in a lot of the workouts, and you project out the body, the speed, the agility, you get him in a good wide receiver room with a good wide receiver coach that's developed some players. You could have a guy that could be a dangerous player in the slot and an immediate impact guy with his speed and agility on special teams. I like Isaac Tesla in the later rounds. I know he maybe could creep into the 4th round, probably be a little early for me, but that 5th-round pick the Texans have, if they added a 6th-round pick, I just really like what Tesla could bring to the table for this Texans team. I like the speed, the agility, the athleticism, the physical profile is a big thumbs up for me, and you just don't find a lot of guys that late in the draft, 5th, 6th round, that have an incredible physical profile like Tesla. You still got to do some developing. You got to do some teaching with him to kind of get him in there to that big slot role. But if you got him out there and he was a successful big slot for you and could take over the slot role in a year or two for this Texans team, oh man, you're really finding a gem late in this draft. Tesla and his athletic profile and what he was able to accomplish here in the lead up to the draft, that's why he's one of my favorites. Now, this last player, I just can't quit him. I can't quit Xavier Restrepo from Miami. I just can't ignore how productive he was for the Hurricanes as their slot guy. Man, he could get deep. He was physical. He did some of the dirty work. He did not look slow playing football. Where have you heard that from before from a Texans draft pick? Kamari Lassiter, when everybody thought he was slow last year, he didn't look slow playing football. But then he went and he worked out, and oh, man, what happened to Xavier Restrepo? He didn't run well in the 40. The agility drills didn't look great. He was really good at the Senior Bowl. Slot guys are usually good at the Senior Bowl. But he made some guys look silly at the Senior Bowl, which is exactly what he did for the Hurricanes over there in Miami. Now, a guy with his athletic profile, smaller guy, not a great athlete, but just went out there and did real well on the football field. That's not a guy you can draft in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, maybe not even the 5th round. But if the Texans added a 6th-round pick, or he's hanging around there in the 7th round, the production that he put together at Miami. Now, this isn't producing at, Kent State, Julian Edelman. Okay. He hadn't produced a bunch at a lower level, beating up a bunch of guys that'll never play in the NFL. He's out there beating guys that he's going to see on Sundays if he makes the team. And I just can't quit Xavier Restrepo. I just like the idea of having a pretty muscular, right? Not a lot of guys his size have his weight and size, but a pretty muscular, successful college player in the slot. And guys that were successful at wide receiver in the slot in college to his level, you got to give him a chance. You got to take a crack at a guy like that. So 6th round, 7th round, I know he didn't run fast. I know there's defensive linemen and offensive linemen and long snappers and punters and kickers and all those type of guys that ran faster than him. None of those guys went out there each and every Saturday and crushed cats on the field like Restrepo did for the Hurricanes in his seasons at Miami. I can't quit you, Xavier Restrepo. I just hope that you're a lot faster on the football field at the NFL level than you were when you ran that 40. It didn't look great. It did give me a little worry, and it probably hurt his draft stock, and that's why we're talking about him as a late round draft pick instead of a much higher draft pick. Those are my favorite 7 wide receivers. Who are your favorite wide receivers? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget April 26th, the third day of the NFL Draft. Come out to Karbach Brewing, hang out in the beer garden with myself and Landry Locker from the locker room. We want to see you and hang out with you. Watch the day 3 of the NFL Draft. Of course, catch S&L. Myself and Landry Locker from the locker room each and every weekday at 4 p.m. If you missed the super stream with our guy John Harris, go out and check that out as well. So much draft coverage for you to consume. It is almost here. And then we'll talk about the guys that are actually on the Texans. That'll be a fun conversation. And then before you know it, it'll be rookie minicamp. And then after that, it'll be OTAs. And then before you know it, it'll be July. We're standing outside in the heat and watching training camp. Boy, can't wait. I cannot wait for training camp this year. It's going to be a good one. I hope this draft's going to be a good one. Just a week away. Can't wait. Who are your 7 favorites? Or just any of your favorites? Let me know in the comment section down below. Appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon.